What's up, it's me, D.W.C, and today I'm going to be doing an MLB The Show 16 discussion video where I go over the new features and game modes in the game and give my take on what I think about them so far and my impressions on them before the game comes out. So let's get started. Starting off with Showtime. I think Showtime is an interesting addition. For those of you who don't know what Showtime is, it's basically you get a bar each game. You can trigger it whenever you want, but you can only trigger it so many times throughout the game. And it basically just slows down time and gives you an extra opportunity to make a play or do something spectacular. And I think that's cool for people who are into that kind of thing, and it's cool to new players to the game. But I feel like hardcore The Show players aren't going to use it that often because I think it's an arcadey addition to a simulation-based baseball game. But like I said, I got no problem against it. It's fine. I'm just probably not going to use it that often. I'll give it a shot, but I might not use it too much. Next, we have custom home run swings and animations. In recent years, we've seen more and more custom home run swings for the top players, and they're adding more of those this year. And the animations. So this year they added rounding the base animations, like Encarnacion has his wing that he does. And they added home plate animations, like David Ortiz will point to the sky. And they also added outfield post-game celebration animations, which is really cool, and I'm glad to see them bringing more stuff like that into the game. Going on to Dynasty, we got captains. Now, there's 6 captains in the game this year. We have Josh Donaldson, Jacob deGrom, Jose Altuve, Anthony Rizzo, Eric Hosmer, and David Ortiz. Now, each captain has their own store and their own missions, which we've been told will change periodically throughout the year. We're not sure how often they'll change so far, but every captain has their own store and missions. And in their store, you can buy players with tickets, and for every level you level up your captain, it'll unlock more players that you can buy in their store, and each player is more expensive and costs more tickets. You earn tickets by playing the game and doing the captain's missions. Now, a captain's mission could be something like use all players over 6'4". So the more players that you have that are over 6'4", the more tickets you'll get. You get 1 ticket every inning you play a player that fits that mission. So if you play 1 player for a game, you'll get 9 tickets for that game, and that'll add up for however many players you have per game. So that's a pretty fast way to earn tickets if you follow those missions. And it'll also diversify the lineups more because some players who are 6'4" aren't going to be the top tier guys that you're going to be using all the time. And we seen last year, a lot of teams, you'd get your star players, you'd put them in the lineup, and your lineup would stay the same all year long. So I don't see that happening this year with the missions and the Inside Edge. Speaking of Inside Edge, let's talk about that. MLB The Show has partnered up with Inside Edge, which is a baseball fantasy company that does projections for every day based on matchups for that day. So a player who's, say, 80 overall could go up to an 85 if he has a good projected matchup that day, or he could go down a couple ratings depending on if he has a bad matchup. So again, I think that's going to make the lineups more diverse this year because you might not want to play a guy who was an 85 at the beginning of the day, but maybe he went down to a 78 and someone else went up, and you'll want to put them in there and give them a shot instead. Also, we have flashback cards in Diamond Dynasty, a lot of them, and legends. 30 more legends, so we doubled the amount of legends this year, and they added a whole bunch of flashbacks. I'm not even sure the actual number, but I know that it's a lot. I've seen a few in their live streams and stuff like that. Like I've seen a flashback prime Alex Rodriguez 99 overall on the Rangers. And I heard talks about there being a flashback prime Joe Mauer catcher version. So all that's really cool. They got a lot of those in the game. And I also seen a Reggie Stocker, aka Barry Bonds 99 overall on the Giants. So all those are really cool additions. Nice to see all these different kinds of cards in the game opposed to like a FIFA or an NHL where you just got the players who are in the league right now and some legends. In Diamond Dynasty this year, they also added 2 new game modes. one being Battle Royale and the other being Conquest. Both these game modes are only 3-inning games, so you can get through them really quickly. Battle Royale is a draft-based game mode where you basically go in and you do a fantasy draft out of all of the Diamond Dynasty players in the game. You get one Diamond round, which is 93 and up. You could get Legends in there, you could just get base Diamond players. Then I think you get 2 Gold rounds, a few Silver rounds, and then a bunch of Bronze rounds. So you just draft out your team, and then you go up against other drafted teams online. And the more wins you get, the better of a reward you'll get at the end. Conquest, same thing, 3-inning games, but this is single player, offline. You go up against other MLB computer teams in single player matchups, trying to steal their fans from them and gain more territories for yourself. So it's basically like Risk Baseball Edition. You're trying to take over the map and conquer all of the map for yourself. You go in, you play the game, and depending on how many fans you have compared to the amount of fans the team that you're playing has, you'll have certain difficulties that you can play on. Like if you have half the amount of fans as the team you're playing, you'll only be able to play on the harder difficulties. They also added a lot of online improvements this year to try and eliminate some of the cheap, cheesy plays that were happening a lot online last year. Like, for example, they did a lot of work to get rid of the dive Gs, where you could just get the ball off the base and then dive back and try and tag someone. They tried to eliminate that. They made bunting harder, so you can't just put down a bunt and get a runner in at any point. It'll be a lot more difficult this year. And they shortened the stealing lead from 2 steps to 1 step. So yeah, you can still steal easily with guys who got high speed, but they also made it more obvious. So if you're taking that extra lead, you'll notice that someone's planning on stealing. And as well as all of that, they also added an out-of-position logic where if you play someone somewhere they're not used to being played, they'll perform poorly. And they also added sloppy animations just for that, so that they can't use the smooth animations. And if you play like a David Ortiz at third base or something like that, they'll be a lot worse fielding wise. So you might want to lean away from putting someone where they don't belong just to get their bat in the lineup. Moving on to franchise mode. They also made a lot of improvements to franchise mode this year. The biggest one for me is player morale, which is really cool. They got 7 different categories for player morale that affect the way a player will perform, such as team performance, individual performance, team role, contract status, and there's a couple other ones in there that also affect it. So that's really cool. That's going to make managing a team a lot more interesting and force you to make the right decisions. They also did a lot of work to signing free agents this year with their contract interest. Contract interest is based off of a couple different factors. One will be how close to home they are, if they're American born, if they want to play close to home. So like a team within their home state will get a boost for them wanting to go there. And for international players, it'll be the amount of compatriots they have on that team. So people from the same country or region as them on that team. Also, the role that they're offered will affect how much interest they have, and obviously the amount of money you offer them. So that'll make signing free agents a lot more accurate this year, and you won't be just passed over for no reason. If you have the most interest in a player, chances are you're going to get that player. Now, they also added a blockbuster trade and signing screen. So say if a Paul Goldschmidt gets traded, there'll be a screen that pops up, shows him in his new uniform, and shows you where he got traded to. So I think that's a really cool. It's not a huge addition to the game, but it's a nice thing to have in there for the season to keep you up to date with what's going on in the league. They also upgraded the scouting in franchise. They changed it to the 2080 scale that real-life scouts use to scout prospects. So I think that'll be a lot better for scouting for the drafts and knowing which player is close to being ready and which player is projected to be a superstar. And it'll just make the overall scouting a lot more accurate. They also added in a budget screen and more in-depth stat tracking with stats such as WAR. And last but not least, for the points that I can actually expand on, they added 20 umpires in the game with differentiating personalities. So one ump might favor you on the inside corner. He might give you a little bit off the inside corner. Another guy might call high strikes. Another guy might call high balls. It's really diverse. It's going to change up the game, and it's going to be really cool to learn the umpires as the game evolves and know where they call pitches and stuff like that. So I think all this together is going to make this year's version of the show that much better. I think the team that's in charge of this game does a great job every year, and I think they'll continue to do so going forward, and I'm really excited to get my hands on this game and start making videos for it. That'll do it for this video. See you next time.